Coming up on this episode of Latinas, we'll learn about spiritual herbalism, talk travel, and so much more. Latinas starts now. Welcome to Latinas, the show that's all about nosotras, created by nosotras. I'm Tina Beth Pina. Believe it or not, today I'm on the rooftop farm and orchard at the Jacob Javits Convention Center in the middle of New York City. This city grange makes you think differently about farming, right? And the future of our cities and where we get our food. And we'll learn more about this farm in particular later in the show. But first, one of the reasons we decided to film this show from here this month is because we want you to think about sustainability and contemplating what it means to think globally and act locally. We're clearly seeing it here, and it's never been more true when it comes to the people that you're about to meet. They're making sure that everyone has the tools, access, and knowledge to participate in the sustainable food movement. Let's take a look.
Growing up in this city, I think it's so easy to forget that we are of this land, of this earth, and growing food for yourself, growing food for your community, teaching people how to do that, it's one of the most powerful things you can do.
Boricua Sunny Vasquez is the food and agriculture assistant at the New Roots Community Farm in the Bronx. The farm offers critical services to immigrant communities as well as refugees, asylees, and local South Bronx residents who not only want to tend to their own plots, but also relax and connect with their culture through agriculture.
I had ancestors who worked the sugarcane plantations in Puerto Rico. So when I think about, going back to my roots, this is what it looks like. Tending to the land, planting seeds, and being in a relationship to what you're growing. We grow so many things. We grow corn, beans, squash, peppers. Like last year, one of our stewards grew sugarcane. We were able to grow sugarcane in the South Bronx. Like, that's kind of unheard of, right?
Everyone was so happy, so happy. Then the sugarcane grew, I was so happy. Because this is coming to garden, right? We have to make experience for many food. Because some plant doesn't grow here. That grow in like Florida. But we have to bring to see if that gonna grow here too. That's why I try with sugarcane, that sugarcane grow. Then this year too, I plant again.
Community farm members like Rose are thrilled to have this oasis in their neighborhood, since the formerly abandoned lot is now a thriving space of community engagement and food production. But community farms are not the only answer when it comes to planting the seeds of sustainability citywide. A nonprofit called Chefs for Impact is also doing their part to minimize contributions to the climate crisis by educating kids around the city about the environmental and personal impacts of sustainable food through their Chefs for Kids programming.
It's important that we approach the food education from a sustainability perspective because we can teach kids how to use every single part of the produce or the food that they're buying, right? A lot of the times vegetable scraps get thrown away, they don't get composted, but instead of throwing them away, you can actually use those vegetable scraps to make stock, to make soups, and that's what we're trying to provide these kids. Showing them the difference between conventional versus organic and teaching them how to be more plant-based or more focused on consuming vegetables, whole foods, instead of eating processed.
On the day we visited, Chef Max was teaching his students in Queens how to make a delicious salad with locally sourced ingredients.
So celery is a very awesome vegetable. It's the base of a lot of cooking.
To make food with things that are grown locally is definitely like a learning experience. And so, you feel good about it. You feel like you're doing good for your community, especially since Rockaway is a food desert. So it's like to grow crops and to be a part of something like this big and to make an impact it's important.
We teach them both at the agricultural and culinary side of things. So we have a garden program and we teach them, how to grow food, how to harvest food, how to grow what's in season, and then from there, we'll teach them how to cook that food and various techniques. I think it's super important in New York City because of the lack of access to reliable food sources. There are very few grocery stores, but hundreds of bodegas, and there's, not access to fresh organic produce. I think it's super important that, as a Latino that comes from that kind of background, that I can, serve minority groups and impoverished communities and teach them and provide access to, fresh food, organic food, reliable food sources.
One of the goals of the Chefs for Impact Kids program is to help create the next generation of food change makers who will become empowered at a younger age to make better food choices overall.
I'm starting to really like these classes because it's really making me want to cook and stuff more myself, so I can instead of buying food outside because it's getting bad, I can make stuff for myself and especially for my family members. If you cook yourself, you know what you're putting in the food and how it's gonna come out, so you don't have to worry about any other stuff that fast food restaurants put in it. So it's a really healthier option.
So they really made an emphasis on only using in-season and local foods and produce, and so that definitely helps cut down on fossil fuel emissions of traveling, and help support my local neighborhood because I'm putting money into the actual neighborhood. Also the food, the food is just better in general because it's local, it's tasty, it's fresh, and you can tell.
Continuing with this sustainability theme, in recent years, spiritual herbalism has gained traction among those seeking alternative and complementary approaches to wellness. Correspondent Elena Romero met with two Latina spiritual herbalists in Brooklyn to discuss the ancestral healing practices that nourish not only the body, but also the soul.
Spiritual herbalism is a very unique practice that really considers the life of the person using the herbs or the people using the herbs, and also the plant itself or the plants themselves.
Meet Suhaili Bautista Carolina, founder of Mother Moon Apothecary. For her, spiritual herbalism is not merely a profession, but rather a way of life.
I would say natural medicine, including herbalism, is a really indigenous, ancient practice, right? It's something that our people are originators of. This is a practice that our grandmothers had, that our great-grandmothers had, and so I think it's really beautiful to witness folks in my generation returning to that medicine and returning to our ancient practices.
Herbalists like Bautista Carolina often embark on journeys of introspection and communion with nature, seeking guidance from the spirits of the plants that they work with.
It recognizes that we're all in an interconnected ecosystem on this earth and that we all have spiritual energy. And so when we're utilizing these herbs, we're not just using them in an extractive way for their chemical properties, but we're really in conversation with these spirits. We are having dialogue with these plants.
What's the difference between herbalism and spiritual herbalism?
The difference between spiritual herbalism and perhaps a more traditional avenue of herbalism is this real connection to the life force of the plant, and this recognition that we have a responsibility to treat our planet and its offerings with respect.
Herbal remedies consist of portions of plants or unpurified plant extracts. Most of the plants and herbs used are believed to have both natural and supernatural healing properties.
So what's in the tea?
So this is mind tea. It's for headaches, mental stress, alleviating, anxiety, nerves. Has rosemary in it, which is a primary nervous system support herb, and lemon balm, which is one of my favorite herbs.
According to Boricua herbalist Che Alexander, plant medicine has its skeptics.
We have to understand there was a very intentional smear campaign put on herbalists and put on herbalism. And the pharmaceutical companies jumped up and they became the kind of end-all be-all for American medicine, for Western medicine. But there was a time when midwifery and herbalism was the way of life, right? There wasn't alternative medicine. There was holistic, naturopathic medicine.
Alexander emphasizes the importance of approaching spiritual herbalism with humility and a willingness to learn from the wisdom of the plants.
Spiritual herbalism lets us know that onion and garlic are great protective plants. So, you know, like the movies, vampires, they're afraid of garlic. In the same way, negative spirits or malefic entities that are sent to you or attracted to you for whatever reason, we use garlic to keep those energies away. So I would say that most people already have herbs that they're familiar with. They just don't know the deeper meanings of them.
Alexander also believes that Latinas naturally connect to spiritual herbalism.
They're looking in their bloodlines and saying, well, my grandmother never took Tylenol and she lived to be 90 and she always had this tea. Let me see what that tea was about, right? So people are asking those questions again. I think it's beautiful.
Asking those questions and being open to exploration might be the first step for those interested in incorporating spiritual herbalism into their lives.
If there is a physical health concern that you might have, maybe that's the way to look into it, right? Start finding herbalists in your area who can specialize in that. You know, if you have back pain or insomnia, instead of going to whatever your local drugstore is, maybe go to your local apothecary. Really allowing yourself to feel curious about the plants around you, because again, they are living beings.
For Latinas, I'm Elena Romero.
So when it comes to travel, should you book that group tour online or should you try to book it on your own? Travel expert Jen Ruiz is back one last time to offer some money-saving tips when it comes to booking tours while on vacation.
So a lot of people think the only way they can travel is through organized tour groups. And I don't want to, bash or say anything about them. They're great for the people that like to travel in that way. But you don't need to feel like you're only limited to organized tour groups, right? Because organized tour groups are charging you for that convenience. It's very expensive. So I think people really need to know that tours are great, but actually the even better way to do this, once you're a little bit comfortable, maybe if you're in a location where you're comfortable, where you speak the language, I recommend that you go look at the tour schedules and then replicate that schedule yourself. Pick the highlights of what it is that you want to hit, contact those individual businesses, and then you'll find them, you get them a lot cheaper that way. It's a lot of work for some people or things like that, but it's sometimes just as easy as seeing like, who is the company that's providing this tour and going to their website to compare the prices. Bacardi tours, some of these Bacardi tours in Puerto Rico, that you come off the cruise ship, they're like $80. Let me tell you, admission to Bacardi is $12 and it includes a free drink. I don't understand how people are still paying more than 8 times the price, for something that they could do themselves. And it's just a matter of not knowing, or maybe fear, or maybe just not even thinking to look. So I would encourage all budget travelers or anyone who thinks that travel is out of their reach to look at ways that you can do this more affordably, to replicate these big itineraries and do them yourself, understanding that, what you're paying for with the big itineraries is the upcharge of having someone plan and put it together for you. And you'll still have the same experience, if not better, because you won't have somebody at an hour and a half telling you it's time to leave now, or 20 people doing it with you. It'll actually be your experience. So I highly recommend that for budget travelers.
Switching gears, Democrats and Republicans are working hard for the growing Latino vote. And one recent New York Times poll found that the Latino Republican vote is growing, with Donald Trump having a slight edge with Hispanic voters over President Biden. Baruch College political science professor Viviana Rivero Burgos is back to talk about that very topic and the Democratic Party's struggle to hang on to Latino voters this election cycle.
I think it's a misconception and it's a little overstated how many Latinos support Donald Trump. Trump hasn't gotten much more Latino support than other Republican candidates have in the past. George Bush was actually more popular among Latinos than Trump, arguably. Usually from a quarter to a third of Latinos will support a Republican candidate. I don't think there's anything particular about Trump that would make him more popular among Latinos. I guess the question is, why isn't he less popular? Which is, I think, what many people are curious about. The way he's spoken about immigration or about Latinos in particular, you would think maybe less people would support him. But I think some of his rhetoric around the economy, around crime and safety, those are things that some more conservative Latinos are likely to support and be drawn to. Latinos have consistently, in the last few elections, voted majority Democratic, with the exception of Cubans, which has been consistently the case for many decades. What has changed is the share of the electorate that Latinos make up. That has increased over time. Registration and turnout rates have increased, though they're still not on par with the share of eligible voters. In general, Latinos in some areas were disillusioned with the Democratic Party in 2020 compared to 2016. The majority of them still voted for the Democratic Party, but Biden in a lot of districts and some states got a smaller percentage of the vote than Hillary Clinton had in 2016. Though there were some other areas, like in Arizona, where Latinos really turned out and helped propel Biden to victory. So in 2024, I guess the question is, and especially with Latinos' concerns about the economy, will the Democratic Party be able to bring back some of those voters who were disillusioned, or maybe some new voters, younger voters? Can the Democratic Party really speak to its accomplishments in the economy, try to draw attention away from inflation that everyone's worried about, or these immigration debates with the influx of immigrants from the southern border more recently?
Today, we're going to get some answers to the age-old question. If your partner cheats, do you stay or do you go? Three Latinas from the sketch comedy group Hilarious are back to discuss just that in today's Caliente Caliente.
Well, it's been a while that I have been cheated on, to my knowledge.
Oh, good for you.
To my knowledge.
That's so great. Claps for that.
Claps for that.
Yeah.
Claps for ignorance possibly being bliss. I think today it's different, because we do live in a world where there is options everywhere, constantly, nonstop. We live in a world where it's so easy to communicate, but we don't know how to communicate. But if it were to happen again, no. I think this is what I'm saying hypothetically. Hypothetically. If I was really in the situation, I don't know. I might wind up in handcuffs, but I'm not
I'll be there to bail you out.
So exactly. So I'm good. I'll be fine either way. You know what I mean? Got the sisterhood regardless. But anyway, what about you guys? What do you think about that?
You bring up something really interesting. Is it easier to cheat these days? I guess it is, social media and in the times of agriculture, when there were families and the next woman wasn't
agriculture. We could have went 20 years ago.
When they were on farms and they would create their children to work on the farms, and the next woman wasn't acres. It was acres and acres away.
Right.
It was less easy. You know what I mean? But now it's social media and we're on top of each other in New York. It's kind of hard not to rub against somebody on the train and give somebody a cheap feel.
I mean, I think it's trade-offs, right? Because we didn't have internet 20 years ago that was so accessible.
Right.
It was easier to cheat.
Mm-hmm.
And get away with it.
And get away with it.
Right. Now it's why she left that eggplant emoji on your page.
Right.
Excuse me, what does this kissy face mean?
So I think there's hyper-awareness of the activity because of the emojis.
And we're emojiologists.
Emojiologists.
I know what this says, okay? This means that you went out with her and you didn't go vegetable shopping. She wants to see your eggplant.
Yeah. And it's constant interrogation every day. So when you get that depressive state in your own environment, in your home, there might be some outcomes out of that. I personally don't know those issues. After 17 years of monogamy, married, divorced, twice engaged, I am solo poly. So I'm polyamorous.
So I want
I
more.
accepted the human condition.
Can you please elaborate on this?
Please.
This is interesting. is it okay to be polyamorous these days? I think it's okay.
Yeah, why not?
Tell us about your lifestyle.
And it's like, it's okay according to whom, right? Like if we're saying, is it okay? Like according to whom? Like who gets to decide?
You, we, us, she.
It is honestly like playing a game. You set the rules, you set the policies and the boundaries, and it's the most honest environment, relationships I've ever had.
That's amazing.
Because-
It's like a book that you share, like, here are the rules, take a read, and I'll hang out with you on Saturday.
There's so many
Terms and
resources.
conditions.
Yeah, terms and conditions. It really is. It's just like, what are you allowing? What are you not allowing? What it is, and then move forward with it. And you're being honest with yourself and your condition.
Right. I check out other women with my boyfriend all the
Yeah.
time.
Is that okay?
All the time.
I keep asking this.
I mean, if he's seeing it, I'm also seeing it. You know what I
Correct.
mean? Do you think you would ever go back to a monogamous situation?
Good question.
Oh yeah. I don't, this isn't something that is like permanent. I think humans are ever evolving. We should always evolve.
Yeah.
While we're learning through this life. I'm not excluding that could be a possibility. Who knows? I could be 75, can't even walk. Be like, hey man, you sticking around? Yeah. All right, we sticking around. But at this time in my life and what I'm doing and what I'm pursuing, this works perfectly for me.
Absolutely, I love that.
And
Yeah.
so there really is no cheating in your lifestyle.
Nah.
No.
And I give
Terms and conditions.
Terms and conditions.
They
And
know what it is. They know
Right.
what they're signing up for.
They know what it is. It's all out on the table, and you just move through life every day with peace. Think about how many minutes you spend worrying about a dude. Those are minutes to be building something for you. What are we doing?
The Caribbean Social Club, also known as Sonitas, is celebrating its 50th anniversary in Brooklyn this year. And we sat down with La Doña herself, Toñita, to learn about how the club got its start and what it means to the community.
Mi nombre es María Antonia Cay, nací en Junco, Puerto Rico. Y tuve una niñez muy bonita porque en ese tiempo siempre se jugaba en las calles con todos los niños hasta que nos mandaban las mamás a dormir. Cuando tenía 15 años mi mamá se murió y quedamos huérfanos 9. Y un tío mío me dijo, mija, vete para Nueva York. Y yo pues le hice caso, había una señora que necesitaba 2 niños para cuidar y vine y seguí en el Bronx y ahí empecé a trabajar. En este sitio llegamos porque conocí gente que se involucraba en el béisbol y seguí caminando con ellos y así un día necesitaban un espacio para hacer las reuniones y ahí dije, pues vamos a coger un sitio que estaba aquí solo y para ese tiempo esto lo que pagaba eran 150 pesos de renta, no era mi casa para ese tiempo y después tuvimos que dejar la pelota porque la pelota llevaba muchos gastos. Y nos sigue llamando Caribbean, lo que pasa es que la gente dice, vamos para donde Toñita, vamos para donde Toñita, y así se ha quedado. Pero siempre el nombre es Caribbean Social Club. Un día aquí para mí es felicidad, porque viene gente, uno dialoga y comparte con ellos, no está solo uno. La gente se siente como una casa porque cuando llegan aquí se despejan la mente, no tienen problemas. Si tienen algún problemita, a veces se lo cuentan uno a los otros, me lo cuentan a mí. Y una cerveza, ellos mismos se la sirven, me la pagan, 3 pesos la cerveza. Y así pasamos el tiempo. Al final de cuentas, todo el mundo está hecho una familia. A la gente le gusta así como está, porque así está como un rincón de su país, porque en todos los países latinoamericanos y irlandeses y todo tienen espacios así como este. Y cuando ellos llegan se siente como que llegaron a su país. Por eso que no, ¿para qué modelarlo si todo el mundo se siente acogedor? Hace mucho vino Alejandro, Bad Bunny, Maluma, Calle 13, René, todo. Maluma, sí. Ellos lo que quieren es saber si es verdad que es un sitio como Puerto Rico, como les gusta a ellos. Y ellos vienen a cerciorarse y a pasarla bien. Y que la gente se sienta contento de que ellos vienen a compartir con ellos. Porque la gente se vuelve loco cuando los ven. Los días más felices aquí ha sido cuando hemos celebrado los cumpleaños de mucha gente que viene, que se lo celebramos, si no hay bizcocho, aunque sea con una vela, se lo celebramos. Lo cantamos y se sienten felices. Porque mucha gente pasa el día sin que se lo canten y aquí se lo cantamos entre todos. Aquí nadie se propasa conmigo, aquí todo el mundo me respeta y se mantiene en su sitio. Y si alguien se pasa, hay seguida quien está ahí. Pero no, gracias a Dios nunca ha pasado. Nunca me respetan porque saben que tengo la mano suave. En esta ciudad todo el mundo anda perdido cuando llega porque es difícil conocerla, pero después poco a poco uno va conociendo y todo se va arreglando poco a poco. En Puerto Rico lo extraño el clima y la felicidad que hay de cuando te levantas por la mañana, abre las ventanas, abre la puerta. Puerto Rico es mi patria, mi Puerto Rico es todo. Lo que pasa es que como uno se pone raíces aquí, pues uno se queda, pero siempre uno añora su país. No importa que sea Puerto Rico, toda la gente que viene aquí viene con la idea de algún día volver a su país con un terrenito, con una casita, con un negocito. Todo el mundo tiene esa idea.
Like Doñitas, the Jacob Javits Center is a New York City institution hosting some of the best trade shows in town, and it also operates one of the most robust sustainability programs of any building in New York State, including an urban farm right behind me on its roof, making it an unconventional oasis in the heart of New York City. The farm at the Javits Center is one of the largest rooftop food forests in the world. Managed by Brooklyn Grange, it has an acre of green roof vegetable growing beds, a 3,500 square foot climate controlled greenhouse, a 10,000 square foot rooftop orchard, and a food forest with apple and pear trees, along with over 100 native, edible, and perennial plants. The farm produces up to 40,000 pounds of produce, and those harvests are used as farm-to-table experiences at convention center events and for customer and employee meals served throughout the year. The rest is donated to local food pantries. The farm at the Javits Center is one part of its green roof that spans nearly 7 acres and is made up of a low-lying rock plant that can absorb up to 7 million gallons of stormwater each year. The green roof helps to reduce energy costs while serving as a home to thousands of birds, bats, and bees, demonstrating the power of urban agriculture. The farm also engages New Yorkers with its weekly tours, and the hope is that more rooftop farms like this one will grow and thrive across the country. And that's our show for today. For more information on what you just saw, check out our website at tv.cuny.edu and follow our social media profiles because we love sharing our Latino stories with you. I'd also like to dedicate this episode to Elba Cabrera, also known as La Madrina de las Artes, who passed away last month and truly changed the cultural landscape of New York, particularly in the Bronx. It's because of women like her that we're able to highlight so many of the wonderful women you meet on our show each year. Please make sure you tune in next season when we'll bring you even more wonderful stories about nosotras. ¡Uepa! Hasta la próxima. Bye-bye.